If you've been playing it for as long as I have, which is 18 years, give or take, you've probably heard of this little indie game called Limbo. Back when indie games were just starting to gain relevancy, this game was adored by everyone. It's always in some top 10 indie games of all time lists and won plenty of awards. It probably also influenced a lot of the most popular games right now, like Little Nightmares. And now, even with all of these things to prop up Limbo as a must-play game, I actually never got around to playing it. So I tried it, and I didn't like it. Now, what is Limbo? Limbo is a puzzle platformer video game with horror elements developed by Play Dead Studios, the makers of Inside. It was released back in 2011, and again, it probably was when indie games was just starting to rise in relevancy. Now, the gloomy atmosphere of Limbo is probably what attracted a lot of people to play it back then. Like, here's a kid that you will probably watch die in the most gruesome of ways over and over and over again, and the story is left ambiguous for plenty of people to start talking about what the actual meaning is, and it has a lot of atmosphere, a lot of personality, and you see, not much games at the time did this. So I think it's safe to say that Limbo's main selling point was its atmosphere, its ambiguous storytelling, and its amazing art direction. And the thing was, I really like atmosphere-heavy games. My favorite part of Inscription was the first act, which was oozing in this intense atmosphere. And Pony Island was so much of a treat to play, even though the game elements of it wasn't really that mechanically interesting. But it was still interesting to me. So I was really going into Limbo expecting to like it like a lot, because it's a game that's all about the atmosphere, the lore, and the experience. But here's why I don't. Limbo is infuriating to play. I have played games where dying is a core mechanic, and this is one of the worst implementations of it in my opinion. You see, Limbo is a puzzle platformer, but the platformer sections are more akin to unfair Mario than Mario itself. Because the game was made for you to die several times before knowing how to progress in the first place. This in itself is not that bad, but because of the nature of Limbo's puzzles, it becomes a chore. You see, several puzzles are built in a trial by error setting and has multiple parts to it. For example, there is this one part in the game where you have to figure out that you have to prepare this Minecraft below this lever, push this ladder here and jump up it to activate this to lift the ladder up, but you have to time it correctly. You also have to jump on the ladder on time to even make it, since the jump itself doesn't really have that much leeway. And then you have to jump and activate this lever and fall on the Minecraft, and as you can see, it progresses. Now, this is easy, right? I mean, like, this is such a simple concept. But the thing is, you have to do this puzzle over and over and over again so that you can even get the sequence in the first place. You have to die a couple of times just to figure out the right timings for the jump, and every death means you have to set up the Minecraft every single time before even attempting these jumps, and you have to experiment a bit on what is the right timing for you to flip the lever for it to go up, and so that you can jump on the ladder and it would just do magic. There was even a time when I actually got it and I got the timings correctly, and I was so happy that I finally managed to know the timings of this jump correctly, but turns out I actually didn't align the minecart. This means that I have to do all the setup, all the puzzles all over again just to do this jump, and I don't really feel like it was my fault to begin with. I didn't know that the Minecraft was supposed to directly be below the lever. I expected the Minecraft to move a bit and then I have to time how to let go of the lever, something I just thought would happen. And remember, each time you die, you have to do or redo this whole entire secrets over and over and over again. And the thing is, there are several puzzles in this game that actually follow this format. You have to stack these boxes on top of each other, get up the platform before the buzz cutter arrives. Again, a simple puzzle, but there is a delay in the drop time of the boxes, so you just have to do this a couple of times and just time it right. Die a couple of times and then you finally finish the puzzle. Put this box under a movable platform and raise the water up so that you can reach the ladder before drowning. And again, it's such an easy solution. But the thing is, I didn't really see that you can move this platform and kept doing this specific strat and wasting a lot of time. Not gonna lie, this is 100% my fault and is probably a skill issue, but because the game is a puzzle game by trial and error, you will probably always come up with the wrong conclusion at some point and just keep repeating said wrong conclusion until you realize something's wrong. In small quantities, this isn't really that bad, but the more it stacks up, the more I got annoyed. It just felt like you were waiting a lot. It just felt like it was wasting a lot of time where you have to wait so much whenever you died. You were waiting for the water to rise before getting to jump, waiting for the screen to turn in the right angle so that you can drop, waiting for the game to end because I don't know why it's lagging out in this case. I just wanted to finish the game in this instance. And compounded what I said earlier, like the points where you have to do the puzzle over and over and over again, and you're left with a lot of waiting. Now, with a game where trial and error by death is your main mechanic, I don't think you should punish your players by giving them more wait time when that's your core mechanic. If you've played a platformer before, you've probably encountered this specific jump, because I think all platformers have this specific jump, wherein you have to wait for a moving platform to come to you and then jump on it and then just wait and then jump to the next step. But missing the opportunity to take that jump will lead you to wait for the platform to come all the way back to you, and I would say that's probably one of the most boring parts of any platformer for me. And in that instance, it's my fault because I didn't jump immediately when I saw the platform, and for some reason I just missed the jump. But to me, this is just Limbo, but it's a game mechanic. Like, it's what it's built around, so it doesn't feel like my fault anymore, and it feels like the game's just telling me to wait, just to be patient. And for some weird reason, it just doesn't click for me. I will say though, that there is one section in the game that I really did enjoy, and it's this part. This part wasn't a trial and error by death, so there isn't a lot of wait time for setting up a jump or these sequence of jumps that you have to do. But it's more of a standard puzzle. And not only was just a standard puzzle, it was actually it had mechanically interesting parts to it. Here is how you have to manipulate the gravity and the momentum to push the box towards you. And in this part, I didn't really feel like I was waiting a whole lot, and I didn't feel like the game was wasting a lot of my time. And it's weird because I probably took a lot of time just to figure out that the other box was in the other side. But to me, this was just an interesting revelation that I was just like, oh, of course it was, because you can go all the way to the left side when you go upside down, and it just felt very organic, and I really liked it. This puzzle section to me felt very rewarding, and it wasn't just me bashing my head against the wall until I get the proper solution to it. And it's just, I don't know, it just ended really well, and it was just structured really well. And here's the kicker here. I know that I'm whining with this one, and I'm essentially complaining about the whole gameplay loop of an atmospheric game, an experience game, a story game. And that's probably because the story and atmosphere didn't really carry it for me, like how it did for other people. It was really interesting at the start, but the more of these types of annoyances kept popping up, I just kept losing interest in the story and started seeing the atmosphere as a game mechanic to mask this horrible experience. And believe me when I say that I tried my best to like the story and atmosphere with this one. And to prove that, I will try to theorize on what the heck this game is actually about. Now, from the game's title, I'm pretty sure we're in some sort of limbo, which is an in-between of two different stages. Most people think that these two different stages are those of life and death, but for me, it's more like the main character was trying to move on from something that happened in the past involving his sister. I'm assuming that she died and he has something to do with that and had some sort of guilt from her death. And I think the cause of her death was a ladder breaking when she was trying to climb up a tree house. like judging from the end of the end screen. So I'd say that he's in between moving on and blaming himself for this incident. And the whole game was basically a journey throughout his life growing up with the baggage of, causing his sister's death. First, we start in the woods where these siblings probably grew up playing in. Since they were kids, they probably saw spiders as this gigantic menace that is just unstoppable. Something to fear and run away from, and that's probably like the representation of this gigantic spider in the game. And since they play a lot in the woods, they were probably warned by their parents that there are a lot of bear traps there and they should be careful of it. Now, after the play stage, you get to the bullying stage, and it appears that because of the boy's arachnophobia, he was bullied a lot in school for it. This is represented by like the mechanical spider leg that's piloted by the other kids. It doesn't really harm the boy, but I'm pretty sure it probably spooked the player because they probably thought that they were going to deal with a mecha spider of some sort. Early on, it's just harmless pranks to scare the boy, but it intensifies a lot as more time passes and it becomes more and more violent. This probably causes the boy to face his fear of spiders and overcome it. And later on, the boy also learns to overcome the bullies by smashing them with a hydraulic press. After the bully stage, we get into the addiction stage. And I feel like later on in life, the boy gets some sort of addiction. This is represented by this worm that controls you throughout the whole entire game. And I would say it's probably the worst mechanic in the whole entire game, but that's besides the point. I say this because the worm controls the boy and forces him to do things that he would normally not want to do. And it's something that's inherently destructive because throughout the whole entire game, it will force you to, end yourself. Sort of like an addiction. Normally, when you're in some sort of addiction, you would probably want to avoid society and the public when you're partaking in it. I'd say that the sunlight that the worm is afraid of and wants to actively avoid is society, and thus, whenever you touch the sunlight in the game, you go to the separate direction. And I would say that one of the main ways to remove or alleviate an addiction is probably having a good support group that helps you when you're at your worst, like family or friends. In this case, they are represented by these worm-eating beaks. Now, I swear I'm starting to sound like I'm in one of those addictive worms right now with this absurd analogy, but it makes sense in my mind. Now let's get into his adult age, which the protagonist probably worked in some sort of factory, indicated by all of these factory segments in the game. While working in the factory, the protagonist remembers what happens to his sister and gets back into the addictive stuff. And, he's pulled out from it again by his family and friends. But because of this guilt, his world and mind is probably all over the place, represented by the gravity mechanics, and eventually gets into a car crash. This is all because of, the directional movements on the latter part of the game, and of course the last scene where the boy seems like he's flung into the wall, breaking some sort of glass and being flung out. And, in the last scene, he sees his sister again. And I think that's, indicative of him being in a car crash, losing consciousness, and seeing his sister, his dead sister again. And now, all of this probably sounds like the ramblings of an English major right now, but I'm just trying to prove how much I really wanted to like this game by trying to search meaning in the game, even though I wasn't really enjoying it. But I just couldn't. For some reason, I just couldn't like this game, and I didn't really know why. I know I've been trying to rationalize all of my points on why I dislike the game, but the thing is, if those kinds of things happen in other games, I don't think it would have irked me this much. Like if it happened in a game like Kenshi, wherein I just had to die over and over and over again, and I had to make the save over and over and over again just to get the point across. I don't think I would have disliked Kenshi. In fact, I actually really like it. And the thing is, I play a lot of games. From open world games like, again, Kenshi and Skyrim. I play a lot of turn-based RPGs. I played all the mainline Persona games and almost all the Final Fantasy titles. I also play a lot of roguelites, like Hades and Risk of Rain 2, a lot of platformers like Ori and the Blind Forest and Just Get Through, story-heavy games like Omori and Road 96, RTS games like They Are Billions and Northgard, 4X games like Civ 6 and Polytopia, and I think this is the first time I've played a game this well liked, reviewed, and all of it, with all the aspects that I really like about games, like a good atmosphere, a really good art direction, and I just didn't like it. And the thing is, I just really think that this is a me problem more than anything else. And I hope that you guys give this game a shot. Just give it a try. And I really hope you liked it, because I sure couldn't. Thanks for watching. See ya.